Um, on June 15th, about 3 million people turned into faux news to watch the fake news the fake news person Tucker Carlson, excuse me, push a conspiracy theory about the January 6th insurrection being an inside job organized by the FBI. His case rested upon an interpretation of court documents that was immediately debunked. But the fact that Fucker's theory was quickly shown to be wrong didn't matter. In an illustration of how the Republican wing of misinformation pipeline works, instead of correcting the record, the Republican members of Congress spent the following days amplifying Fucker's baseless claims. Carlson highlighted a case involving Thomas Caldwell, a veteran who was among a group of Oath Keepers charged with a conspiracy in connection with the insurrection. He suggested that Caldwell was entrapped by an unidentified person too, referenced in the charging document. Um, um, he claims that person 2 and person 3, they were the organizers of the riot, which there was no proof to it. Carlson said the government knows who they are, but the government has not charged them. Why is that? Why they were almost certainly working for the FBI, which they weren't. As a Carlson op-ed that was published by Foe later in the week made clear, trutherism of this sort is aimed at showing that the FBI might have helped organize the January 6th Capitol riot, which they didn't. It represents an attempt to recast the insurrection as an inside job of sorts, spearheaded by the FBI instead of what it really was, which was an effort by the squad of Donald Trump sycophants to intimidate Congress into overthrowing the election results. The insurrection itself was caused by a similar sort of disinformation, lies about massive fraud tainting Joe Biden's victory over Trump. Instead of taking accountability for their roles in fomenting the Trump sycophants into a violent riot, many Republicans have opted to try to pass blame onto Antifa or downplaying the ransacking of the Capitol as mere tourism, which it wasn't. It wasn't Antifa and it wasn't tourism either. Now Fucker and company have provided deniers of the Capitol attack with a new way to dodge accountability for the insurrection by constructing an alternate history where Trump sycophants were entrapped by cunning deep state provocators, which they weren't. There's only one problem with the idea that Caldwell was entrapped by the FBI can't survive scrutiny. But as a national security blogger, Marcy Wheeler detailed, a comparative examination of court documents in which names are redacted, like the one Fucker Carlson cited, but ones in which the names are visible, makes clear that person 2 is actually Caldwell's wife, Sharon Caldwell. Later filings over release conditions confirm. The selfies posted to Facebook were of Thomas's wife, and describing Thomas agreeing to be accompanied by his wife Sharon at Mass, starting on Easter, expressing concern that his wife has to do all the chores in their 30-acre farm, which has led to the loss of farm income, and describing that he rarely travels anywhere without his wife, Sharon, and that she's willing to go with him every time he does leave their property, Wheeler writes. So Fucker, in effect, had accused Caldwell's wife of entrapping him. The absurdity of this conspiracy theory is revealed by the fact that Sharon Caldwell worked for Thomas's release from jail, which happened back in March. Fucker Carlson's conspiracy theory doesn't just rest on the Caldwell case, however. During his June 15th monologue, he went on to suggest that other unindicted co-conspirators mentioned in charging documents pertaining to the insurrection were potentially FBI agents, which they weren't. Strangely, some of the key people who participated in January 6 have not been charged, Carlson said. But look at the document. The government calls those people unindicted co-conspirators, and what does that mean? It means that in potentially every single case they were FBI operatives. No, they weren't. That's unlikely, but instead, Carlson's interpretation rests on a fundamental misunderstanding of legal terminology. Ryan Goodman, a former special counsel for the Department of Defense, explained to me that federal law enforcement wouldn't refer to informants as unindicted co-conspirators. It's completely far-fetched to imagine the Justice Department use of the term, and it refers to anyone working with the FBI at the same time. Goodman said in a direct message, such individuals would not have the mental state required to commit the crime, and accordingly could never be referenced as co-conspirator. It is plausible that an unindicted co-conspirator is now cooperating with federal authorities after that fact, but certainly not on January 6th itself with respect to the conduct alleged in these charging documents. Now, Fucker's conspiracy theory is based on an article published on June 14th by the fake news site Revolver News, which is edited by the former Trump White House speechwriter Darren Beatty. As CNN's Marshall Cohen detailed, the fake news site Revolver piece is carefully hedged, and with claims posed as questions. Notably, Fucker's monologue went further than the article it was based on. He unequivocally claimed that FBI operatives were organizing the attack on the Capitol on January 6th, even though the evidence does not back up that claim. But to the Trump sycophants, whether the idea that the Capitol attack was an inside job has merit is beside the point. And after Carlson gave deniers the facts of the facts a sheen of legitimacy, and despite the complete lack of evidence to support it, the Republican members of Congress like Matt Gaetz, the pedophile Matt Gaetz, the nutcase Marjorie Taylor Greene, both promoted it on Twitter. Another House Republican, Paul Gosar of Arizona, went even further and entered the fake news Revolver article into the congressional record, claiming falsely it contains information about infiltration and incitement of the January 6th protest by federal officials. No, that is not true. While Republicans embrace flimsy conspiracy theories in an effort to shift blame for the January 6th attack from fanatical Trump sycophants to the deep state institutions like the FBI, they were simultaneously blocking efforts to form a bipartisan commission that would be tasked with investigating the insurrection. And the pedophile, the nutcase Green, the pedophile Matt Gaetz, and Gosar all voted against it, and so did a critical mass of the Senate Republicans. But maggot Republicans and their media echo chamber aren't about to let facts get in their way. On June 16th, Carlson responded to Twitter. Fucker responded to a Twitter flagging a misinformation warning to a tweet that he posted promotion on January 6th trutherism by suggesting that it was evidence he was right all along. No, he wasn't. In an effort to shut us down, Twitter just confirmed that what we suggested was true. No. Carlson said, "Thanks, Twitter. They are fucking morons." Yep.